Hello everyone, Pear here from the Paradox Brothers channel. Today I'm going to be doing a general explanation to better understand Rescue Cat decks. So let's get into this. So what is Rescue Cat to begin with? It's an Earth monster, 4-star, beast type, and with very weak stats. But that's not what we really care about. What we care about is the first version of the effect. So before the erratas, this effect was as follows: send this face-up card on your side of the field to the graveyard to special summon 2 level 3 or lower beast-type monsters from your deck to the field. The monsters special summon in this way are destroyed during your end phase. So why is this so good? Well, it's so good because it allows you to spam the field with monsters from your deck, which is a very powerful effect. Being able to pull anything from the deck in GOAT format in particular, where it's a fairly rare ability, is very powerful. And these are some of the targets, not all of the targets, but some of the targets, and probably more than likely the targets you'll choose to pull from the deck with Rescue Cat. So Deswombat, Panda, Wicked Worm Beast, and Mindless Radiant. Mindless Radiant is the card that's probably going to be in some form or fashion in every cat deck that is an OTK variety, because it increases the attack of Earth monsters by 500. So Last Will is often played with Rescue Cat decks, and that's because it allows you to pull, once again, from the deck. And some of your targets may include Cyberstein and Exile Force. There are a variety of other targets you can pull as well. So why is this played in general? Well, it's played in general because it allows access to OTK strategies. It can be played in multiple different types of decks, not just OTK. And some of those variants are Control, OTK, Burn, and even Dimension Fusion Bazoo. So how does it work in general when we're talking about the OTK version? Well, Rescue Cat is often used in conjunction with cards that remove other cards from the field to allow a clear board to get in as much damage as possible. So you'll see cards like Giant Trunade, you'll see cards like Mind Control and things like that. So what are some of the upsides? Well, the upside is that you're playing your own game, essentially. You don't really care what your opponent is doing as much, and hand advantage doesn't really matter to you. You're not really playing for the hand advantage when you're playing an OTK strategy. If you're playing like a cat control, then obviously it's a very different situation, but I am focusing mostly on the OTK variety here. It has a good matchup against Chaos Turbo if you play it correctly, and it can be fairly consistent for an OTK deck. So what are some of the downsides? Well, despite the fact that it's fairly consistent for an OTK deck, it's still an OTK deck and has some of the failings that they often do. That being, you can draw an unplayable hand. You can draw into Mindless Radiant, which is a very bad starting card, and you can just have a hand that you can't really do anything with. It can suffer greatly against warrior type decks, high aggression type decks. Before you get enough gas to get going, they can try to snuff you out. And it can be very difficult to play correctly and very easy to play incorrectly. One misplay can really cost you the entire game because you don't really have the ability to grind games out most of the time. Some examples of some very simple combos. So say you have Rescue Cat Last Will in your hand. You activate Rescue Cat, or you activate Last Will, and then you activate Rescue Cat. And then the first Rescue Cat will pull 2 Deswombats. And then with the Last Will, you pull another Rescue Cat, and then you pull 2 Mindless Radiant. This will equal 7,800 damage on the board. Deswombat is the strongest attacking monster you can pull with Rescue Cat. So this is a lot of damage, obviously, but it's not enough to take them out just for the Rescue Cat combo. So is there a better way? Well, there certainly is, and that involves Cyberstein. So instead of pulling another Rescue Cat, you pull a Cyberstein instead with Last Will, and you use Cyberstein, provided you have the life points to do so, pay 5,000 and bring out Master of Oz. Master of Oz is an Earth attribute, 4,200 attack. When this is all calculated, said and done, with the Mindless Radiance that you pull, it's 8,500 damage with an open board, which is more than enough to take them out. One thing I will say as well is, since OTKs kind of work very quickly, if they work, your opponent probably isn't setting a lot of stuff. So there's a very good chance they can't do anything about this, especially in game 1. So how do you clear the board if they do set things? Well, for spells and traps, you have Giant Trunade and Heavy Storm. I don't necessarily recommend using Mystical Space Typhoon or Dust Tornado because it just gets rid of one. And 3 Giant Trunade and 1 Heavy Storm is a lot of back row removal. You have Exiled Force for monster removal and Mind Control across that. So what if you can't do enough damage? Well, what you'll find is that a lot of people will be playing some sort of burn integrated into the cat deck as well, and that is to just edge them out with a little bit of burn if the cat combo doesn't go off, and it doesn't put as much pressure on the player playing the cat deck as well to wait for the perfect time, because unlike Reasoning Gate Turbo, there isn't really a lot of bounce back with this deck. Once you use your resources, you don't really have too much often in the grave you can really use to help you continue the momentum. You really need something else a lot of the time to edge it out, and a lot of people turn to burn for that reason. For example, this is Pree's deck from PWCQ 38. They used a little bit of burn. You don't need a ton of burn, but a little bit of burn to edge out the games. But do you have to use burn? And I say, no, you don't have to use burn. There are a lot of different varieties. You can have a variety of cards you can integrate to the deck to make it work, and one is Earth-based warriors. You know, you're not going to play any chaos because you don't have any intention of really doing that in this type of deck. So or at least light and dark chaos, I should say. So having access to Exiled Force, Gigantes, DD Assailant, DD Warrior Lady can be very powerful, and it can also provide you with enough chip damage from the warriors to be able to go into the cat combo and win. And it also allows you to grind out games a little bit better, and you can extend your combos as well, because once you do a Rescue Cat into a grave, you have a Gigantes in hand, you can special summon them. This is an example of Alefia's deck from the same tournament. So things to watch out for going into game 2, because once they find out that you're playing a cat deck, they're going to reconfigure their deck as much as possible to not lose to it. So King Tiger Wengu is probably the best card right now that I can think of against a deck like this. It takes care of the Ojamas, it takes care of scapegoats, it takes care of so many things, and it's multifaceted in its uses. So a lot of people will have this in their deck for a multiple set of reasons. But it's very good against cat decks because just like it destroys Exiled before it's able to use its effect, it destroys cat before it's able to use its effect. So what do you do? Well, there are a number of ways to deal with this, but some easy ways to deal with it is to start siding in Book of Moons into your side deck, and then going into game 2 just assuming they're going to have something like that. And if you don't see it in game 2 and you lose game 2, then you're probably pretty confident they don't have it. You take the Book of Moons probably out. But Book of Moon really stops King Tiger. It's a very good way to be able to go into the cat combo and do what you need to do. Reinforcements of the army can also be very useful in this instance as well, to be able to get a warrior monster, which is why the warrior variant may have the edge in today's meta, because it doesn't really suffer the same thing as the, say, burn matchup would. Burn variant, I should say. So at this point in time, I'd say if I were to give it to what I think is, despite the fact that Pree won with the burn variant, I think a lot of that is, one, they're a very good player, and two, a lot of people have not been expecting burn very much recently. But with kind of a few players winning with cat decks and burn kind of slowly going to come back in, inevitably I'm sure people will start putting King Tigers back into their deck or side deck, and you're going to see that struggle a lot more. Some advantages of a deck like this is that Mystic Walk kind of crippled Panda Burn for a while, but it really doesn't do as much work against Cat Burn, because you can still do a ton of damage, and they can gain a lot of life, but you could do a lot more damage, I think, when you're combining Cat and Burn together rather than just having them independently. The Warrior version, I feel like I said at the moment, probably will have a longer lifespan, at least in today's meta, just because you can make it very toolboxy at the same time, and it's not as dependent upon certain conditions, right? You can control your destiny a little bit more. You don't have to depend upon your opponent having a bunch of monsters or something like that to get a lot off of just desserts, or having a lot of cards to get a lot of secret barrel or things like that. So, but both are very good and both are very playable. So, well, that's it for the video. Hopefully you learned something, and if you did, let us know down below. And we'll be making videos like this in the future. Thanks for watching, and have a good day, night, wherever you are.